I can't believe it, everybody. Arabella was just shot by the society swindler. She could be dead right now. The physicians are with her now, Miss Bennet. I glance up at Johnson as he approaches, having half collapsed onto the seat in the foyer as soon as we arrived home. Ernest had carried Arabella back, clutching her to him as though she were the most precious thing he'd ever held in his life. And, let's be honest, she is. She had not moved or awakened the entire time. Miss Bennet? Yes, thank you, Johnson. I swallow hard, glancing down at my lap and frowning at the crimson blood, seeing my hands and dress. Oh, this is terrible. Oh my gosh, this is disgusting. I don't like it. She's strong. She will pull through this. I can do little more than nod in reply, afraid that the emotion I have so far quelled will burst forth if I speak. Johnson moves away in silence, disappearing into the servants' stairway and leaving me alone once more. Laurence and Ernest were doing whatever they could to arrange for a search party to find the false swindler, but none of us seemed barely able to function. I flinch as footsteps sound down the stairs, glancing behind to see Laurence move into the foyer. I stand unsteadily from my place and stare at him. He says nothing, and for a while, neither do I. I open my mouth to speak, and as I feared, I cannot form words past the tears that finally break free. As my knees threaten to give way, I feel his arms hug me to him gently. Oh my gosh, we've got a picture of this. It's such a sad scene. Like, all the big pictures have been romantic close-ups, and this one is crying. It's heartbreaking. His fingers curl into my hair, his other hand embracing me closer. I grip his shirt to stop the trembling in my fingers. Tears streak over my cheeks, my body shaking violently. He continues to hold me, both of us embracing for what seems like hours. A couple of tense weeks pass. The physician's unsure of Arabella's condition. Wow, we're just going to skip ahead a couple of weeks then, huh? That's what we're going to do? Okay. We're not going to find out what happens the next day? Let's just skip ahead a couple of weeks. Sure, fine, whatever. Let's keep going. The doctors can do a little more for her, so they leave her to my care. I tend to her every day, trying to ignore the paleness to her cheeks and the labored rising of her chest as she breathes. She does not wake. I'm thankful for Laurence's presence during the time, offering help and comfort every day. Ernest is also a constant figure in our house, his fear for Arabella weighing on him heavier each day as she does not wake. But then, one day... Johnson! I scurry down the stairs, finding Arabella gone from her room. Arabella is... in the drawing room. What? Johnson smiles, possibly for the first time in weeks. Lady Ashbourne is taking tea in the drawing room. I do not respond, fleeting hope taking hold within me as I rush to the next room. I stumble to a stop in the doorway, staring at my friend sat on the sofa, a teacup clutched a little unsteadily in her fingers. Oh, she's alive again! Oh, okay, so that only took about 3 minutes. Okay, cool, that was a quick recovery. Good morning, Catherine. Her voice is somewhat strained, and she is fully rested against the back of the seat, but she's well. Oh, hug her. I cannot form words, too many emotions tightening my throat. Instead, I rush forward and fall onto the seat beside her, wrapping my arms around her shoulders, about her shoulders. I swallow down the overwhelming relief as she hugs me in return. Though I much appreciate the sentiment, I would ask for caution as I'm not yet fully recovered. Of course, I'm so sorry. I pull back, moving my arms from her shoulders to take her hands in mine. For a while I thought... She holds up a cup to stop me as I speak, then leans forward to place down her cup. I notice her wince as she moves, her hand snapping to her side and clutching at the wound. I frown in concern, but keep myself silent. I do not wish to speak of my condition or... She moves uneasily on the seat, her fingers grasping her side a little tighter. Or of the wound I've received. The memories are still sharp in my mind. I do not need them repeated in words as well. Though I do have a vague recollection of Ernest carrying me. Indeed, he carried you all the way home and would barely let you out of his arms, even when the physicians came to examine you. Poor Ernest, I do so hope I didn't bleed all over him. You did. I wouldn't wish to give a bad impression. I doubt anything you could do would ever sway that man's affections. As her laughter subsides a little, so does the pain creasing her features. Footsteps shuffle into the room, and we both glance at the doorway to see Johnson. Do you require anything at all, Lady Ashbourne? Nothing, thank you. Oh, Johnson. The butler halts in his exit from the room to glance at me. Would you send word to Mr. Amsbury and Colonel Foxley, please? He gives a nod of his head, bows, and then slowly leaves the room. I turn to Arabella once again, sheer joy filling me once more as she smiles brightly. Ernest arrives barely an hour later, and I leave the pair to their privacy. Thankfully, Laurence arrives only a little while later. He's barely handed over his hat and cape before he rushes towards me. Is it true? Has she awakened? It's true! His face breaks into a genuine grin, and he steps forward to pull me into a relief-filled embrace. The servants pay us little attention, having grown used to our unusually public shows of intimacy over the past few weeks. He pulls away, his hands running down my arms until he holds my hands in his. When I received the news, I feared it was my imagination that had conjured it. Indeed, even Pierce was most affected to hear of her recovery. For having barely any acquaintance with her, he has been most anxious about her, to the point he has almost made himself ill. I hope he is a less so now that she is well? He collapsed onto a seat at the news, but seemed in better spirits as I rushed out of the house. I smile in response, also uncertain why Mr. Montfort should be so overcome, but grateful for his concern. And where is Lady Ashbourne? She's in the drawing room. She is in the drawing room with Ernest. Ah, now I see why you linger in the hallway. I believe they both wish to start their future, especially after this. As do we all. He brushes a curl of hair away from my face, his hand then cupping my cheek. These weeks have been trying for all of us, but I realized how much I was affected by you in that time. Your heartbreak is my heartbreak. Your happiness, my happiness, and I would see it always as such. I believe my heart was yours from the moment we met upon that bridge at the picnic. I have so long been in love with you, but it was not until now I realized the undeniable strength of that love. His declaration leaves me momentarily speechless, and I try to blink myself out of my deliriously happy state. Kiss him. Oh, are you proposing? Oh, yes. Are you? I take a steadying breath, my words hitching in my throat. Laurence, are you proposing? Apparently not very well. But yes, I am attempting it. I don't know how to respond in words, so instead I throw my arms around his neck and hug him close. I can feel his surprise at my motion through the tension in his shoulders, but it quickly fades and he embraces me fully. It is good my declaration is met with such a positive response. For a moment I had my doubts. How could you have had doubts on such a thing? Indeed, how foolish of me. My breathing speeds as his hand presses against my back, his head leaning towards mine. Oh, interrupted. Okay, well, I want to see what happens if I selected something else. What if I kiss him? I know there are no words to express myself in that moment, so instead I lean forward and press my lips against his. I can feel the surprise through the tension in his arms, but it quickly fades and he deepens the kiss between us. This is a most unexpected but very welcome response. It's a true relief to know you feel the same. For a moment I had my doubts. How could you have had doubts on such a thing? Indeed, how foolish of me. Okay, well, I'm gonna go with the are you proposing just because I want it 100% clear that he's trying to marry me. Oh my gosh, he proposed. And here is Pierce, here to ruin everything. Thanks, Mr. Montfort. Great. He just proposed to me, and you have come to be just a wet blanket who ruins everything.